So thanks, George. It's a real pleasure to see everybody again this morning, and a real pleasure that you've all come back, which is fantastic for George and I and Larry, that we're talking to ourselves by day 3. So thank you for that. A quicker reminder than we did in day 2 in terms of why we're here and what we're doing. We're here to learn some strategies and foundational tools for taking a facilitative approach to advising effectively. That's what we're doing. And we'll build on that sort of idea today as we bring everything together for you at this stage of your facilitation one-on-one journey. The objectives, to remind you, covered the role. We've identified some of the key facilitation principles. We'll identify a few more today and best practices. And then in the second part of the course, we look experientially of taking the information that you've gained and practicing in a safe environment. So having said that, it's a 2-part agenda: explain, then followed by demonstrate, imitate, and practice in the second day session later on in the year. So very focused with a structure to what we're doing. A reminder of the ground rules that we've got, and it's been over the last 2 days, it's been really great to be with you and listen to your ideas and so on. So keep the ideas coming, challenge what we're saying if you want, disagree if you want, ask as many questions as you like, whenever you want. And as I have done on a number of occasions, as I pull the curtain back, make mistakes as well, as we move along. And we'll do our best to professionally facilitate the knowledge and exchange of information between us. So, and our part 1 objectives, really zeroing in. That's where the focus has been on the last 2 days. And of course, it is the same on the 3rd day as we bring this part to a close. But there's a slight difference when we look at our journey. Having had a discussion yesterday, myself, Larry, and George, we'd like, with your permission, to make a slight deviation to the original journey. And this is what it looks like if you're in agreement. Today, we're going to move straight into a session with George on growth drive and growth, the potential opportunities in the growth drive sessions for using a facilitated approach. And George will lead us through that session, and that will take all of the first 2 hours. Then when we come back after lunch, we're going to begin the process of closing out this whole journey of ours, this whole first part of the course. And so we're going to cover the closing the session with actually closing the course. So we're going to put the two together and demonstrate what a closure looks like by closing our course out, covering the aspects of closing the session best practice. So that's combined in that area there. Of course, after lunch, we'll allow some time for any discussion based on what George has said earlier on, and maybe just drop in a couple more points before we move to closing the session by closing the course. Now, hopefully that makes sense for you. And are we in agreement that we can alter our journey like this? We think it would be better for you. Anybody who disagrees, shout out, and we'll go to the back of the room and have a conversation. Okay, you might be wondering now, last point is, what are we going to do with focusing? Well, we'll have a quick 5-10 minute discussion around focusing, because if you think back to what we've been doing over the last 2 days, and what I'm doing right now is part of a process of focusing participants and focusing you in particular on where we're going and what we're doing and where we are at in our journey. So having not heard any disagreement, I would take it as read that you've given us permission to adjust the course. And so having said that, George, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. And, you know, guys, I would point out that what Andy just did is a refocusing. So what Andy just delivered is exactly what you would do to start the afternoon session of a full day event, or to start day 2, day 3, if you're running a multi-day event. We will make the slides available to you. And of course, it is included in the book. I'm just going to take a moment, you know, as we do things, we're doing them with purpose, because as we're doing that, we're actually demonstrating, we're starting to get into demonstrating the techniques as we have throughout the course. So Andy just refocused us. Go ahead, please, Andy.
And just a note also that best practice there of it's okay to change things, but what did we do when we wanted to change things? We are still signifying we're not in control, you are. And so we're seeking permission and agreement to change something, and not just foist it on you and that's it, you know, because we decided. And so that is also part of best practice. It's okay to change based on our thought process, based on maybe something the participants have told us yesterday or earlier today, or because we're not meeting expectations. But when we do, it's about a permission to do so.
And to add to that, I would say more times than not, there are adjustments that have to be made when we facilitate half day, whole day, multi-day sessions. It happens often. It's kind of like a football game plan, soccer, for any sport. We have an actual game plan, you map out, but in real time things happen and we adjust to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So actually, if it's okay with everyone, what I'd like to do is start by getting everyone's mindset. So, you know, you already heard, I shared that I'm a 4.99. Andy went up to me by saying I'm a 5 and headed for 6. Love that. I'd love if you guys if we could go around the room, and if you would please share your, you know, where you are personally or professionally, you know, your number 1 to 5, 1 to 6. And your favorite comedy film. Okay, your favorite comedy film. So I will start with Andy.
I'm just going to add my favorite comedy film. It's not a comedy film, but I can't get enough of Laurel and Hardy. They really make me laugh.
Those kids, Andy, you're dating yourself. Those kids haven't been around in a while.
No, but they make me laugh.
Okay, well, Andy, who are you going to toss it to?
I'm going to toss it to Mike.
Well, I had to think about that for a while. I remember Laurel and Hardy, I must admit, but I'm a 5. You know, I'm looking forward to today, looking to see how this gets all pulled together. Sorry, I'm nasal right now, but my favorite comedy film, that's a tough one. I would, there's many of them. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Caddyshack.
Cannonball. Excellent. All right, Mike, who are you going to toss it to?
I'll toss it to Steve.
Mr. Duke.
Okay, well, I guess I'm a 4.5. I'm on the edge of my seat, just anxious to hear George's presentation. Caddyshack's a good one. And they don't make silly movies anymore, but that I know of. But I like the one where it's was a nut to my dog, Peter Sellers.
Okay.
Peter Sellers, Pink Panther, good one.
Yes.
By the
And
way, for Steve to be a 4.5, guys, is Steve.
This is off the
I'm very
scale.
happy. You're making my day.
Off the scale.
Who are you going to toss it to, Steve?
how about Larry?
Okay, I am close to 5 as possible. Being able to actually use this yesterday at 4:30, the 5 Ps, I wasn't joking. and create that structure for the beginning of the project was very important. Well, I would have said Caddyshack, but I have to go with something else that I found when I was a teenager very funny. And I haven't seen it in 40 years, at least 50 years. That's called Where's Papa? Just an insane comedy from the 70s that comes to mind. So, but usually it's Caddyshack, I would say. Okay, let's go with Inger.
I would say on the scale, I'm about 4.5. Like I said, there's just a lot to absorb and drinking from a waterfall, but it's fantastic information. As far as favorite comedies, I mean, there's so many to try to choose from, but I'd have to say a film that I did not like when I first watched it, that has now become a favorite, is Monty Python's The Holy Grail.
Oh, outstanding.
Yes.
Outstanding.
It's a good one.
Silly English knigget. Excellent, Inger. Who are you going to toss it to?
Let's see, have we heard from Anna yet?
Not yet. Thank you, Inger. Well, I'm an 8.875. You know, almost. Well, anyway, but there were actually two comedy shows that came to mind. One is Rocky Horror Picture Show, but my favorite one is absolutely Paul.
Absolutely, Paul.
No, the name of the movie is Paul. That is my absolute favorite.
Never
and if
heard of
you've never seen it, you will probably dislike it, but that's one of my faves. It brings all kinds of high level thoughts down to really understand comedy.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Anna. You're right. Yours and Larry's, never heard of them, but who are you going to toss it to, Anna?
Oh, I do apologize there, Joe. Take it away.
Oh, you're muted, Joe.
Joe's still muted.
Well, he's into silent movies, so they were good.
Laurel and Hardy.
Okay.
They are.
Laurel and
Welcome
Hardy.
back.
Hey, Charlie Chaplin, we need to see.
You with us, Joe? There we
Here
go.
now?
Yep.
All right. So anyways, so I would say 4.0. Anxious to see this roll out. I kind of see the light now, understanding, taking a while for me to kind of understand all the pieces and parts. But so I'm anxious. And then the one that popped in mind is The Jerk.
Oh.
Steve Martin's first ever movie, and it just continues to come back with some great one-liners that you know, a lot of people that you slip one in and people like right away they get it, right? That's what I love about some of that comedy. That so I'm in.
Oh, that's cool. Excellent. Who are you going to toss it to, Joe?
You know, I'm a disadvantage. I'm on my phone. So let's see. So we got Mike. We did Mike already, right?
Yep. We have Chad,
And then
Ed,
Jeff. Chad, please. For 200, Jack.
Right. Hey, there we go. Yeah, I am a solid 5. You know, when I first logged on, I was going to say 4, but the excitement and the energy from you guys has fired me up. So I'm going to say 5.
Awesome. Favorite comedy movie, Chad?
Oh, gosh, first thing comes to mind is Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. Also a great one. Excellent. Excellent. All right, Chad, who are you going to toss it to? We have Ed and Jeff.
All right, my man Ed, let's do this. Go for it.
I this morning I'm 4.8 since I kind of couldn't listen in the afternoon yesterday. my movie was Home Alone 1.
Also a great one.
Oh, yeah.
So really enjoyed that. I'll pass it over to Jeff. I think he's the one that's left here.
How we doing, everybody, this morning? So mentally, I'm a 4.9. Physically, I'm still around a 4.
Oh,
Grade 5. I'm gonna. So if I'm a little darkened today on the screen, I'm probably talking to a doctor or something, but we're working it through. I am having met the man through my grandfather. I am a Mel Brooks fan, and the two that come to mind, somebody actually mentioned indirectly, Silent Movie, and Young Frankenstein. Can't get enough.
Young Frankenstein, so good.
Proud
You know, it's
birthday.
funny. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going to throw a curveball out there, only because it's the movie at which I laughed the hardest, the most out loud. I was laughing so hard that I actually got embarrassed and stopped and realized that the whole theater was screaming with laughter. It was Something About Mary, which I saw in the theater and just howled. I know it's a little, don't judge.
We got a bleeder. We got a bleeder.
Exactly.
And
So we've got
Pork and beans.
Exactly. I didn't say it was appropriate, but I am an 11-year-old child at heart. Okay, guys, that's great.
George,
Sir.
George, may I just make a point now in terms of facilitating?
Please.
This little transition that we've done, we talked about transition and putting things away in a box and coming in, but also we talked about, as advisors, using this facilitative approach. Look at what we've done here as a team and group in terms of sharing information that we wouldn't necessarily normally share, to build trust, to build cohesiveness, to set a culture for us amongst us. Now imagine working with a CEO and senior management team and having this transition every time we meet with the group. We begin to help the group build its cohesiveness and trust. And that is a fundamental part of what we do in this facilitative approach. So, may sound simple, may sound, why are we doing this? But it's very powerful over time in starting that journey to build this cohesive leadership team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not, and it may seem frivolous, especially to the uninitiated, but it is far from. And I chose this morning's topic for two reasons. One, all of us have a favorite funny movie. Two, it was something we would all be familiar with, and it's upbeat and light, right? It's not, tell me about your favorite time with whatever. This is upbeat, light. You don't have to think, and we did it right, and we're all laughing along, which is, we're getting humor into the mix as well.
Hey, George, can I add just one little thing to that? And
absolutely, man.
I was doing a presentation with a group of about 28 branch managers at one company as a client. And the interesting thing I do is I go around and ask them to give me the month and the day of their birthday. And so I put mine up 12/12. So the first person I call on, I said, what's your birth date, month and year? She says 12/12. I said, no, don't copy mine. What's yours? And she says, that's the number. In roughly less than 30 people, there were 3 people that paired up in the group.
Yeah,
But the neat thing is that they all worked for this company. Not one of them knew the other manager's birthday in the whole group.
That's
So
a
it's
great,
kind of like you said, Andy, it's perfect. It gets everybody involved.
especially if you have a bigger room, guys, and you can go and look this up online. Statistically, if you have a bigger room, I think it's over 40 people. And you ask Ed's question, you're going to have a bunch of people, and you're going to have them stand up and applaud and do, you're now twins. It is a great, not an icebreaker, starter. So thanks, Ed. That is a great.
Okay. I don't want to slow things down. Ed, taking Ed, what I've done is in groups is get everyone standing up, and they have to, without words, and within 2 minutes, get in a line from January 1 birth dates to December 31 birth dates. And getting back to what Andy talked about yesterday in terms of movement and how people communicate. So how do people communicate so that the April 1st birthday is in line in the right order compared to the April 28th birthday. And using hands and what, you get the picture of it. But it's a great exercise. You get to know birthdays as well, but you get to see how people communicate and get them moving.
Excellent. I like that. I've not participated in that one. That's very cool. Anyone else have a technique they'd like to share? Okay, excellent. Well, guys, as promised, we are going to take a lot of what we've learned and we are going to demonstrate it, and you are going to have a chance to practice. So feel free to volunteer. If not, you will be volunteered. And we're going to apply this, and we're also going to demonstrate, and we may stop at times and say, okay, what I'm about to do is refocus, or what I'm about to do is or what Angie just did, and we'll call each other out. And if you want to observe and ask if we just did something, now I'm going to make a comment about refocusing and tempo and closing. Those decks will be available to you, and we may parachute into them. But you've been experiencing refocusing, right? And we'll point out a couple of specific techniques, and then you will experience closing. And anyone, again, if you've been at one of our events, and we're going to do this, the summit will be a facilitated event. So we're going to have a ton of fun. I think that's what I have to start. So we're going to take a lot of what we learned. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with everyone. And here we go. We don't want the sequence start. Another housekeeping point, guys. Another housekeeping point is, I'm jumping back into preparing for the meeting, okay? I loaded this morning at the crack of doom. I loaded 6 checklists, I believe, into Circle, into the area in Circle to which you have access. Jeff Stern, I am guilty of not having sent you an invitation. I will take care of that middle of the day. Everyone else
problem.
is
No
in
problem,
there.
George. No problem. Thank you.
Everyone else is in there, and you will have access to them. There are 6. They're documents. They're Google Docs. You open it up, and you won't be able to edit it. All you do is click File, and make a copy or download, depends on your device, and grab a copy for your machine, and then you have it forever. They come out of the bonus section in Michael Wilkinson's book, The Secrets of Facilitation. So there are some checklists in there that they're great guidance. They're very straightforward. They're simple. They're 1 or 2 pages, but they'll get you. They're good refreshers. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm about to do is a refocusing technique. Okay. So what you'll do in refocusing, what you'll do in moving the process forward, is to say, okay, guys, well, we're now actually, with your permission, we have gone back. We held off. We had such a great conversation on preparing that we held off applying it to key events in the growth drive system. So we're going back to preparing for success. And with that, I'm going to jump in at 5, process and preparing the meeting. Okay, so we are going to go through, and guys, honestly, if I selected these, and I have reasons which I will explain, we're going to apply the 5 Ps of preparation to a CEO workshop marketing event, the growth conversation. All right, so many strangers, 1 potential client, deep analysis, a senior leadership team, and a weekly meeting. And there's a reason I selected the weekly meeting, because it is a small recurring meeting, but these techniques apply. And as we go through, you'll notice that and this is one person's opinion. Andy, Larry, Steve, Jeff, Anna, you may see it differently. Great, let's discuss it. I've used a very simple color coordinating, but I think the lead your lead role in the meeting is in blue bold. Your ancillary is in blue normal. And then you'll also have a hat, and you can throw it on if needed, is in black. Okay, so for a CEO workshop marketing event, you're an advisor facilitator, right? Because you're educating people. But I would advocate doing it in using the facilitative process. All right. And we're going to look at the purpose of this meeting, the product, the participants, the probable issues. This is going to be a fun conversation. And so with that, let's jump in. You know, I just want to do a quick recap, if I might. What's the importance of clarity of purpose? We want to have a very clear purpose for each of our meetings, and it needs to be very, very clear in our mind. And depending on the event, very clear in the participant's mind, right? But we want to have a clearly stated, clearly defined purpose. And you know, we have a couple of examples here that you can read, but the purpose helps determine the best strategy and approach. Okay, so in the growth drive system, the purpose, we have our own ulterior motives for these meetings. There are meetings or events for winning and engagement, the sales conversation, client interview using Clarity One, the growth conversation, and CEO workshop marketing events. And then we have other scripted, structured events that are for paid engagements, senior leadership alignment workshop, the deep analysis, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. A strategic retreat, which we're also going to talk about as an extension of our deep analysis. Execution, deploying the execution leadership system, a kickoff, quarterly, monthly, weekly, okay? And then collaboration, senior leadership team collaboration around business flow, the business flow report, which we used to refer to as the flash report, okay? Any questions before I jump in? Suggestions? Things you'd rather see? Okay. So thank you. Going to revisit. Let's recap on the slide. We just walked through these. So I just want to refresh your brain. You think back to when you participated in the launch course. We have an action cycle, and your ability to facilitate applies throughout the cycle. Okay, the analysis, preliminary, deep dive, senior leadership alignment, design, coming up with an executable plan, and then leading execution of that plan, leading sprints, holding people accountable. And imagine, if you would, if you approached design and execute, even analyze any of these. Imagine if you did it with only the CEO, and then you told the senior leadership team what was going to happen. And then imagine doing it with the CEO and the senior leadership team, everyone reaching consensus on the analysis, everyone collaborating on designing a plan, everyone collaborating as the plan is executed, with you as the facilitator. Now, at times, of course, you're going to put on your consultant hat. At times, you're going to put on your advisor hat. You're going to move from being guide on the side to being sage on the stage, if I might borrow Andy's words, Andy's descriptors. But imagine the delta between the two. So very, very powerful. That's why I call this the glue. These techniques are incredibly powerful. All right, so I highlighted which four we're going to hit. And we have a pick list here. So if you want to stop and ask at any point, well, how would whatever we're covering apply to a strategic retreat? Great, okay. But I think with the four that we've selected, and I hope you agree, we've selected four very representative. So, all right. Let's start with the CEO, one of my favorites, CEO workshop market event. And by the way, guys, there are verbal cues and there are nonverbal cues. And you'll see at times we raise our hands, we point, If you're in the room, you're going to be making eye contact. You'll be walking around. There's nonverbal communication that's very, very important. So, go ahead, please. Please, Andy. Yeah.
George, just before you start and looking at the slide, I just want to take everybody back just to be, I said I would bore you to death with this point, because it's so important. Taking this facilitative approach to the way we do things. Why do we do that? Well, we know that at the end of the day, for us working with our client, we want them to do something. We want a result, and we want that result, and you're not going to get that result unless you get this participation and collaboration and this process. Facilitation helps you achieve that, so that you weld this team together in a participative and collaborative way. Participation equals commitment, commitment equals action. And at the same time, you're generating awareness and responsibility for doing stuff. That's the rationale behind keeping that facilitated hat on in our approach to our advising.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. And to pick up on that point, if I might, one of our guiding principles as growth drivers is that we will leave an indelible mark with our clients, an indelible positive mark with our clients. And imagine if when you end your engagement, whether you worked on a project, you facilitated a meeting, and then that was that, or you've been engaged with them long term, excuse me, you get them in the habit of doing things like transition. You are leaving an indelible positive mark. They're better. You've left them better for having worked with you. By the way, selfishly, makes you very memorable. Might make you the first phone call, right? So, if you're fun to work with and you're leaving and not frivolously fun, I mean, just pleasant with a positive, with a positive impact, you're much more likely to get the call back. So, okay, before we jump in here, just by a show of hands, I can't see everybody, but who has done some version of a CEO workshop marketing event, whether you used core value or clarity, or you just stood in front of a room full of CEOs with, yeah, excellent. Okay, so good. So then I can pick on you guys when we jump in, because what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the 5 Ps around a CEO workshop marketing event. So for the uninitiated, a CEO workshop marketing event is where your strategic COI, or I know that some of you have done this with good old fashioned, elbow grease, picking up the phone and getting people into the room, but you get your center of influence fills a room, 10 to 15, I've found to be best, with CEOs, non-competitive CEOs. And then you use clarity level 1 with this room full of CEOs, and you do it we have a structure for it. One that we'll go back, it doesn't matter. We have a structure, we have a deck, speakers notes, etc. I was about to say we should probably go back and look at those. It's been a little while, but they've proven very, very effective. Okay. I've helped lead these. I personally have done this in front of Vistage groups. I've done this in front of much better groups, the LX Council groups. These are deeply impactful because when you have a group of strangers in the room and they're finding common ground and they're using the common language of our methodology that's enshrined in clarity to discuss their issues, to discuss things that they're seeing, their experiences, you are creating a safe place, and you're having an outsized impact. You are punching above your weight class. Okay, these workshop marketing events, the first one I ever did, we did in Philadelphia. It was Rob Waring and Kurt Celiak's. Their preparation was outstanding. 25 CEOs in the room at the Tech Center in Philadelphia near the 30th Street station. They got 20 please call us. Hello, 20 of 25. And the other 5 didn't say, don't call us. They just didn't check the, call me box. And so these things are powerful. And that, I would say that that's representative of the conversion you're going to get. Now, let's have a conversation. We have our 5 Ps. So what is the purpose of a CEO workshop marketing event? Anyone?
So, George, I would say that it's probably to help them benchmark themselves against best in class companies in terms of their ability to grow and to transfer.
Absolutely, Mike. And what are you hoping that will stimulate?
Oh, you're asking, okay. Well, I mean, further inquiry. I mean, a deeper dive. A deeper dive analysis. How do they? What is their score, and how do they rank, and how do they stand, and where are their weaknesses, and what are the issues that they need to address in order to become best in class?
Excellent. Thank you.
And as we do that, we recognize the educational and awareness piece of doing that, Mike.
Hey, George, can I comment? I would say just peer to peer, having other peers be able to talk with and just have trust in.
Absolutely, Chad.
And commenting on that, Chad, that's a great point. So if that was your purpose, that's going to influence later on when we get to it, the process you use. You're not going to get that purpose achieved if you stand at the front of the stage as the sage on the stage. Not going to happen. So you've got that, purpose. Process follows purpose.
And I'll just share a little experience. Guys, when you, let's say you finish Clarity 1, guys, I'm just going to speak plainly for a sec. When you finish Clarity 1 and you say, would anyone in the room like to volunteer to have us review your results? And we're not going to share any personal, any sensitive information, simply how you answered the survey, because we're able with Clarity to put their survey up and show just the answers without any revenue numbers or value. I will tell you that if you don't get a volunteer, you say, listen, no problem. I understand this is sensitive information. Look at what you're doing to the room, by the way, by saying that. It's you're gonna start walking through a report, and the hands will start going up. And these nonverbal cues, like putting your hand up when you want people to volunteer, are very effective. Okay, so remember to use nonverbal cues. Okay, so the purpose of the workshop. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll jump in to reinforce some of the good things said. Is I open all of these by defining the purpose, and I'll add to the list is an opportunity for a couple of hours to be strategic about your business and to have an opportunity to think about your business in quantitative and ways that you just haven't had a chance to do previously. And then I set that up because I want dialogue at certain points along the way. And I want to know what they're thinking and what they're feeling based upon what they're learning and hearing from their peers in the room. And we always need to leave at the end of these a little bit of room for them to say, I want more. And that's one of the keys to run them effectively in our benefit as well.
And if I may, George, because thinking about what we've done on the last 2 days, you can't think totally in isolation here, because with purpose, in terms of thinking of purpose and then how to take the purpose into, as what Larry's been talking about, is a strong opening, that we covered yesterday. Take that purpose into the strong opening. And what did we do in that strong opening? yes, we have a purpose, but what are their expectations of the people attending the breakfast meeting? So again, that's got to be thinking of a strong opening. That's going to be a thought process that you've got. Yeah, we've got my purpose, but as I come into the strong opening, then I've got to allow some time for maybe their expectations as well. So my purpose gets influenced. You've taken the time to be here. You've taken the trouble to come here at this early hour in the morning. We've talked about the purpose, but what is it that you want to get out of this hour that makes it worthwhile for you attending this event?
Yeah, and a little logistics comment. Andy just hit on it. Best done as a breakfast, guys. Best done as a breakfast. Do it at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Your compliance, your attendance will be much closer to 100%. Okay, Larry, please.
Also, for your benefit, from a marketing standpoint, give it a name that matches the purpose and the expectation. So I brand this event. Just ran one last month for the second largest chamber in New Jersey, and it was successful. And I got people who want to follow up. So I branded mine, and I suggest you think about a name that fits your purpose and the purpose for the audience. And so my name is Run Your Business Like You're Going to Sell It. And that is trademarked, and that's how I approach it. And it's worked well for me. So come up with something that fits what your purpose is and what the purpose for the audience is from a name standpoint.
And if I may just drop in another name, which I found very useful along that, is how do you measure up? But the point that Larry makes is very valid.
Yep.
It's a very good one. It is a good one. Okay, I'm going to, anyone else care to comment on the purpose of the event?
So I'm stepping out a little bit, but if you were to go to empathy, mapping for this business owner, and what are the things that they've tried and failed, places they could look for help, positive things, feelings, positive things they can do, future aspiration goals. So you start thinking about, doing an empathy map for whoever your audience is, in this case, CEOs, create that, use that as a tool to kind of, what are they going to want to hear and see, and what are they dealing with on a day-to-day basis? So get them where they are.
Yeah. Absolutely, Joe. That's a great point. And actually, and you just created a perfect segue to what we're trying to produce, right? What's the product of the meeting? Now, there's the product from, I'm telling, not asking. I caught myself. What do you think the product, what are we trying to produce with this event? And we've actually, if you think back to one of Andy's comments and one of Larry's comments, and then the point that Joe just made, what are we trying to produce? What's our product from this meeting? So imagine that you have a room full of CEOs, and what is your hope? What should that event produce in your mind? What are some options? What might it produce?
So George, I would say it's going to produce, well, first of all, I mean, awareness amongst the participants, and curiosity, and and wanting to learn more and go deeper. I mean, going to the next step above and beyond this introductory level analysis, is to make them want to go deeper and learn more.
Outstanding, Mike.
And building on that, Mike, what you've hit on there, you've almost got two products. You've got the product that we want as the advisor to come out of it, and we've got the product that we want our participants to go away with, and that then signifies that if you want to do what you've just mentioned, awareness, education, we need to have our toolbox of questions ready, because we know that great questions will generate that awareness, and then hopefully a responsibility to do something the back into the product bit. So this is how that link becomes. We can't just voice, we want to educate and we want to generate awareness, and we're going to sit there and stand as the sage on the stage again and just blurt out 50 PowerPoint presentations. We know that does not generate awareness or responsibility because there's no participation, and you create the participation through the effective questions. So you think through that process and have the toolbox ready.
And yes, Andy, yes. And by doing what Andy just described, guys, think there are two things that these CEOs come into the room, and their UBS person, Martha, who they love, has said, you really should come to this workshop. Andy's a great guy. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And just on the strength of that brand, that trust, they come into the room. Now, they're half expecting like an insurance person to be standing up at the front of the room selling them insurance, or expecting you as a business consultant to stand at the front of the room and tell them about, because they've heard this 1,000 times, how great you are, the services you provide. They're going to come in and by preparing, by having great questions, by letting them lead it. How different is that experience? And how do they then perceive you? And what does that product look like? Right.
And just a small point, you can set that up in your marketing material so that you're signifying in the marketing material, and this breakfast meeting is going to be participative, and engaging. So you're setting back to our setup process of what to expect.
And thank you, Andy. This is great, guys. We are gelling as a team, because not just, building on Mike and your input, all of us, this entire this room, because we know who the participants are. Let's take a moment, and I'd like to just skip who is the sponsor for a moment, because Andy, what did Andy just tease out about participant briefing? If we think about the participant briefing, right? Because we probably won't have a chance to brief them, but what can we do? Anyone care to pick up on what the point that Andy just made?
Well, can we ask them, I guess, yeah, can we ask them at some point, like, what would you expect, or what are you expecting to get from this presentation? What are your expectations? What would you like to leave here with? What kind of, what are the desired takeaways for yourself?
Absolutely. In fact, hey, Mike, might that be, I'm just going to ask it straight out. What do you think about having that in the transition into the right? And you see, when we close, remember, if you think back to when we started this course, we asked everyone, and I wrote them down. I was madly typing away over here. What are your personal expectations? And when you have a room full of strangers, we're going to transition and asking, what is your expectation? What are you hoping? That is a fantastic question. And and in a way, it has color of participant briefing, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyone else? Please, Andy.
And I was going to say, your participant briefing actually is going to be a marketing message, which is going to advertise the event. So you're not going to put every aspect of what we would consider to be a briefing document that you would send to individuals in a company. But in this sort of event, it goes into the marketing collateral that you send out, a few points about what to expect. So you're signifying, just as we want to in strategy, the differentiation. You come to our breakfast meeting. This is like a meeting you've never ever attended before in your life. It's going to be great fun. It's going to be participative. It's going to be engaging. So bring your brain into the room, guys. I'm exaggerating slightly, but that briefing goes into your marketing collateral.
And if we think in terms of the clarity report, you're spot on, Andy. Do you guys remember we talked about the what's in it for me, which we're teasing out here in the certification? By the way, we ask, we do a WIFM. We walk through what's in it for me. In your marketing material, when you're talking about what's in it for you, they're going to leave there. They're going to walk out. It's it's in the ether, but they're walking out of there with a report, right? And it's a good report. It is a valuable report. So in your marketing, it's your participant briefing. We can be doing some whiffing, and you're going to leave with an insightful report. You'll have, and frankly, you can say, I believe truthfully, you will leave with action steps that you can implement immediately in your business. And we can talk about techniques for doing that using clarity, but right. Okay, participant breathing. Anything else you'd like that we should cover about the participant briefing and how we're actually moving it into the marketing sphere for this type of event?
Can we come back to the sponsor, George?
Yes, we're about to. Perfect. Andy, fire away.
Now, the question there is, who is the sponsor? So imagine that you're running this breakfast meeting, and you're thinking about the preparation using the 5 Ps, and you come to this question, who is the sponsor? It's easy when you're in a company, you might say it's the CEO, but if you're putting on this breakfast meeting, who is the sponsor? So anybody got any thoughts on that?
Just in general, when we have sponsors in the running groups, usually it is a bank, a law firm, a CPA firm, somebody that invites you in to host it because they want to keep touch with their own clients. And let's take the example of a bank. They're trying to have value add on to their customers, to their clients, and by bringing you in, they're assuming that you will also have a value add to them. So the sponsor may not really, have their finger in your pie, so to speak, but you are there representing them or under their invitation.
Okay, that's a great point, Anna. Could you talk to us a little bit more about how then you involve the sponsor in the 5 Ps?
Well, normally they will come up with, and this is just all personal experience, they'll come up with a topic, and I don't always just accept their topic as presented to me. Like if somebody says, well, would you like to present on exit planning? And I would say, I'd love to do that, but can we have a little deeper conversation about what you want me to deliver to the people in the room? And oftentimes it'll narrow that focus down. So my engagement with the sponsor will really depend upon what they're looking to get. If it's not just goodwill, are they looking for referrals? Do they want me to hawk their wares, so to speak? Or what they do, how that marries in with what I do. So it really depends.
Okay. And if I may probe it just a little bit deeper,
Yes.
how do you involve the sponsor in the actual day of the meeting? Are they involved?
Oh, that's easy. They'll be there to introduce me. What that does for me is that will give me a little bit of credibility, walking in, and then I will usually have them either, the actual sponsor or an employee of the sponsor man a table, doing something within the actual process, say signing somebody in. If I don't have somebody, I'll ask, gee, do you have somebody that could spend the first half hour, 45 minutes signing people in? It promotes goodwill. They get to know somebody that, that's on your staff. So that's one way I do it. The other way I do it is I thank them for providing lunch and the space or snacks. And then at the very end of it, I will always thank them. I will always have them come up and, give whatever closing remarks that they want to. But there are some like for instance, I did a presentation for a local bank. It's a national bank, but and they wanted me to talk about a particular tool that I presented to them. So I sent out the tool in advance, the link to the tool for them to take, for the business bankers and the private bankers to take, so that they would understand what the tool did for their clients and how it would help them in placing the proper products, you know, whether it was loans for equipment purchases, whatever that was, lines of credit, and how this tool clarifies that, you know, that business owner's particular need. And if you can, you know, have the banker understand the business owner need better, they're not just going to try to, you know, push a line of credit or something they don't need. They'll be working more in conjunction with helping the banker client achieve their goals and make their job easier. So sometimes I involve them on a granular level.
Okay, so thank you for that, Anna. That's a very comprehensive answer you've given us. So thank you very much.
Andrew, can I add on to that a little bit?
Of course you can.
Please.
Anybody else can
So-
chip in. Please do.
So once or twice a year, I'm fortunate enough to work with a bank. One of the things our banks don't do, remember, I'm a recovering banker myself, is they don't reward the middle market bankers when they do the right, excuse me, when they do the right thing and somebody is getting ready to exit out, bring in the private banker to make sure the liquidity drop ends up over there at the bank. And one of the things I do to help involve the sponsor is let them strut their stuff a little bit. You know, I'm good at what I do, but you know what? I bring in experts to talk about family trusts and donor advisory trusts. So I can have the sponsor, one of their private bankers, talk about those things, the high value people. So now it becomes more of a little bit of a collaborative effort where we're trying to provide value to the client, hopefully one day the shared client, so that we can also think strategically with both their clients and, quite frankly, keeping a client, you know, them keeping a client when the liquidity drop happens, because many times it goes elsewhere.
And all great points. And just think about the richness of this conversation by thinking about the 5 Ps.
Right.
Before the event, during the event, and the what's in it for us. The what's in it for us by creating this relationship through the 5 Ps.
Yeah, and I just, one thing I'd like to comment on or share, I had basically, it was a co-sponsor, I believe it was 8 CEOs, and I brought in a cybersecurity expert to kind of, you know, explain to these business owners the importance of, you know, having maybe cybersecurity insurance or whatever the case may be from the cybersecurity world, and how that complemented what I presented, how it would possibly increase the value of the company, help the operations, and help the company become, I guess, easier to sell. And that went over really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah, great strategies, guys. Great.
Can I
strategies.
jump in here real quick and
Of course.
just an awareness that just came through, well, probably 10 minutes ago when Andy was talking, and thank you for pointing this out, is that I've done the PowerPoint presentation up at the front of the room with a room full of CEOs, business owners, and I found that was a very cold or cool interaction. Usually, sometimes I could get individuals to jump in, but then afterwards, as I was talking to them more one-on-one and it wasn't so scripted, I started to engage them much like this process does. And when I went through George's workshop several years ago. And then I hooked up with Tina and went through her training at the LX Council. I started to realize that my conversational approach was pretty much what this was, but my presentation skills were misdirected, and I wasted a lot of opportunities by talking in front of groups, not doing it in a way that engaged the audience, not just once or twice during a presentation, but throughout the presentation. And thank you, Andy, for giving me that epiphany, that aha moment.
Excellent.
Just today. Thank you.
And that's a great insight. And may I add also, because it brings to mind something else, don't forget about the room setup. The moment those CEOs walk into your room, if you set it up in the school, in a school way, like we were talking about yesterday, people going to sit behind desks facing the front with you at the front, it automatically signifies, oops, I've got to sit here and listen. Keep my mouth shut.
That's exactly what part of the dynamics of the presentation was, is that everybody, was there to be educated, to be entertained, so to speak, and as CEOs, they're not looking so much for education. They're looking for entertain or infotainment at this point.
Yes.
And these past couple of days have really clarified this for me. Somebody should create a software called Clarity or something. I'm not sure.
Maybe clarify. Excellent.
Yeah, something like
Thank
that.
you very much. Hey guys, in the interest of time, it's 5 minutes past 11. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to make a few closing comments, ask if you guys have anything else you want to make sure we cover here. And of course, I'm always available to discuss this and any other of the growth drive system, separately. Would that be okay with you? And then we'll take a quick bio break, and then we're going to come back and do have two big meaty conversations like we just had. Is that okay? Excellent.
George, can I just close out just for you? If I just say that when you look at potential problems, think about those in the 5 Ps. Think about what could go wrong. Seating, room arrangements. That's something that maybe you don't control, but you need to have a control and talk to somebody about, and so on. There are others, but think it through. And of course, what's the process? Well, the process we're talking about is a facilitative process. And remember to focus on your strong opening and get people engaged as soon as you can.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. Actually, you know what? With that, does anybody have any questions, comments before we take a 5-minute bio break?
Yeah, George, I do. Going back to the problems or the issues, well, the probable issues, right? Because that's also could be a problem. So do you think about red herrings and ditches and stuff like that, and how to handle them at this point? I mean, is it?
Yeah.
You have to think about that, right? Somebody could bring up something totally off point and how to handle them, right?
Absolutely. And we can talk about that. Mike, I will say that of all the times I've done this, there was a very often, I would say more than half the time, that person is in the room. And they know more than you, they don't, and you would need to be prepared to deal with that person in a constructive way, right? Because the first time I did this in a Ruth's Chris, I think in DC, it wasn't the first time I did it, but the first time I had to deal with this issue, I did not deal with it as artful as I could. And in fact, the financial planner ended up sidebarring this guy and bailed me out. He sidebarred this guy. It's like, listen, man, is there a problem here? And but you're right. You better be ready to have, at a minimum, to have that person in the room. That's a great. But this all goes back to the preparing, and your spot. If we think of the COI as the sponsor, let's talk through when we get the attendee list. Let's talk through. you know these people, you sit down, you've worked with them for years. Is there anyone here on this list that I should be prepared for? And you could diffuse the whole situation by having an introductory phone call with the person. You know, there are a lot of ways to do it, but Mike, your point's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Andy?
could see people challenging, like in Clarity One, right? Because I've used it a little bit, and people start challenging, like, well, where'd you get the multiple ranges from, and how valid are they? And they can really get nitpicky about the methodology, right?
You'll be
Well,
happy
Mike,
to know
I've had
I'm writing that.
I
I'm
had
writing
someone
that
try to blow it up by actually more than nitpicking, say that it was bogus. And
Right.
it was, and I could not, it was the first time I ever ran it. I could not really answer the question the way he positioned it. And I put it back out to the room and got other people who said, no, this is really good. And it allowed the room to answer it, because I was stuck. I didn't know where to go. It was the first time I ever ran it.
Well, Mike, I mean,
helped out.
sometimes, if they give me pushback on that, especially with Clarity One, I'll follow up with going through an exercise and do it manually as well.
Mhm.
And the last point, Mike, is, and for all of us, we have a community here. So we need to learn from each other what to anticipate from those who have done this multiple times, or any of what George in the growth drive listing he showed earlier in the slide, and how we facilitate it. We have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we
Yes.
need to draw off of that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Larry. Okay, guys. Well, if it's okay with you, we will take a 5-minute break. We are going to move into, we've just done the CEO workshop marketing event. And then, so we'll move into our next set piece. So 5 minutes, I show the time at 10 after. If we could be back at 1/4 promptly, that'd be great. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you.